Well, happy Sunday, everybody. Happy third Sunday, our designated day to do live chats. So, just as everybody's coming in, I guess maybe the first thing we want to know is we feel secure that the sound is working just fine, but wouldn't hurt to hear from some of you that it's working fine. Okay, can you give me something? Can I see what they're seeing? What can I see the chat? Yeah. Oh, so okay. So to get started, let me begin by saying, in order to ask questions, that you should be a member. Everybody's welcome to watch. We love having all of our subscribers here and all those who aren't subscribers, but members get special privileges. Oh, good, Krista. Sound and video is fine. Glad we are overjoyed that that's happening. So if you would like to be a member, you want to know why you should be a member? Well, for one thing, all the members get a free video lesson every month. That's the biggie. That's the one that everybody's really so excited about. But then there are others too, that members can ask questions during the live chat, and members will get an excerpt every month. So members do get some benefits here. Membership with benefits. All right. So the topic today is getting color harmony in your painting, something that we all strive for. And we'll go ahead and begin with our usual intro video. And what we're hoping here is that you will find something here that might stimulate some really, invoking questions. Is that a good way to say it? Okay, let's begin with the video. Color harmony in painting means that the colors that are in the painting are compatible. Another way to say that, or maybe a way to say it a little more clearly, is that all the colors that are there appear to be under the same color of the light source. One way to illustrate the importance of having a painting in harmony or in color harmony is that a painting in color harmony has the same effect on our visual perception as a musical instrument in tune has on our perception of hearing. For example, if if one string on a guitar is out of tune, there is no way any tune played on that guitar that includes that string can be in harmony. It's all going to sound off, not compatible, not in harmony. In music, we have dissonant chords, but they belong. In painting, we have dissonant chords of color, but they belong. But the overall consideration is that we control those colors so that they appear to be under the same color of light. Looking at a scene like this, a junkyard with crushed cars piled one on top of the other and all other kinds of junk, you might not call it in harmony. It doesn't matter what the subject is. The subject matter can be any kind of garbage, but as long as it's under the same color of light, it does have color harmony. This scene does have color harmony because it's all under the same color of light. On the other hand, we have a photo here of a butterfly and flowers, which you would expect to be in color harmony. But that butterfly is under a totally different color of light. It does not feel harmonious with the rest of the scene. With all this in mind now, just how can we guarantee that in our paintings we can have color harmony? Well, there are actually 3 ways, virtually foolproof. Now, there are not only 3 ways, but there are 3 ways that work. I say start here And then once you start getting the hang of the perception, once you learn how to really feel, really perceive whether colors are harmonious or not, it's easy enough then to make adjustments. But let's call these 3 techniques that you can use. One of those techniques is to use analogous colors. Now, that's not always possible because the whatever we're painting might have colors in it other than analogous colors, but analogous colors are one way to go. And how does that work? Well, traditionally, analogous colors are defined as colors that are close to each other on the color wheel. They've traditionally been given a pretty narrow definition and usually are limited to within a range of 3 to 4 hues, like this. But there is an expanded definition, and that is colors that have a single color in them. So, for example, yellow has green, yellow-green has yellow, green has yellow, even blue-green has yellow, but that may be reaching a bit too far to guarantee color harmony. Orange has yellow in it, red-orange does, and not red. Red does not have yellow in it. So we could say that the analogous range reaches all the way, halfway in the color wheel for every color that has yellow in it. I would say keep a close eye on that, because it is possible that if you're using high intensity, highly saturated colors, it's possible that you could get a little bit of a color conflict. So I'd say stay within about a range of maybe 4 colors, or 5 at the most, that have a single color within them. Now let me show you how that works. Let's see it. So if we're using yellow, for example, we're saying that our analogous color scheme is one in which we use colors that only have yellow in them. Okay, here's yellow. We'll put it right here. And then we can then put yellow-green beside it. And we can feel the harmony between those two. We can reach over, go on the other side of the color wheel, reach over for the yellow-orange, and we can put it underneath here so that we can see it beside yellow and yellow-green, and we feel color harmony. The yellow gives them color harmony. Let's see, how far can we go now? Let's go over into orange, and we can put orange in the mix. Orange right here. Orange and yellow-green are compatible. They feel visually as if they're under the same light. Let's reach over a little further into red-orange and see, will red-orange feel that it's under the same color of light if we put it in that scheme? I think it does. So even in the red-orange and the yellow-green, we feel the color harmony. Let's go one step further into green, and all these are full saturation. And so we can put green, and we'll put green right here. You feel that feels a little contrasted, but it would work. So we can see here that by using an analogous color scheme, we can have color harmony. Another way to achieve color harmony is through desaturated colors. Now that's really an interesting thing, because whenever we desaturate a color, and this is desaturated in this direction on the color wheel, desaturated means that the color has its complement added into it. Well, when we add a complement into a color, we are in essence adding all colors into it. For example, yellow. The complement of yellow is violet. Violet is a combination of red plus blue. So when we add violet into yellow, we're adding red plus blue. That means that every combination on the color wheel is made up of either red and yellow, or blue and yellow, or red plus blue. So when we add the violet into it, we are in essence adding all colors. So for that reason, most of nature feels in harmony, color harmony, because most of nature is in a desaturated hue. Very few, maybe some flowers in nature might be fully saturated, but the majority of nature is in desaturated hue. So when we use any saturated color on the color wheel, let's go back and let's use a fully saturated red violet here. Let's put a fully saturated red violet right here. Now, in the same light, colors that don't have red violet in them, analogous colors, we know will have red violet in them, but colors that don't have red violet in them, green for example, are not going to be harmonious. And I can show you that, and just put some saturated green beside it. Well, you're going to feel, just with those two there together, just two of them, well, you feel it slightly out of tune. Doesn't feel quite right, but then we can throw the desaturated version, a desaturated version of the green into that, and it will feel better. And let's put it right here. You see how that, it still feels like green, but it feels better. It feels more like it might work. And the more desaturated a color is, the more harmonious it is with all other colors. So we can get a really desaturated version. We see that this pretty much feels like it's lit under the same light. Now the third way is mother color. There, I have a quick tip on mother color somewhere. I did some time ago. Mother color means that whatever colors, set of colors you're using, they all have a single color in common. A little akin to analogous, but they do have different definitions. Analogous usually refers to colors that are beside each other in the color wheel. Mother color might be using, if you're using mother color for harmony, color harmony, you might be using colors that are not beside each other on the color wheel. So what you do is, especially if you're working with a really highly saturated color, let's go this time to a really high saturated yellow green. Let's make that even more saturated. Yellow green. Let's just blare your eyes out here with a really, really saturated yellow green. Now, for other colors to feel like they're under the same light as this, they should have a little bit of this added into them. You can add just a little bit of the yellow green in whatever color you use and make it feel harmonious among other colors that you're using. We can show you an example of that, I hope. So for example, say we want to use, maybe we're looking at something, a red wagon, or saturated red wagon. But then there is some of this lime green, saturated lime green in the scene. This is really extreme. But anyway, in order to make that really feel like it's under the same light, we'll have to add a little bit of the green to it. Now, green into it. Now here we go. Here is the really highly saturated yellow green. You can see those two really fight with each other, really conflict with each other. But then I add a little bit of the yellow green into that red. And in the painting, you see now we can feel, they do feel lit under the same color. In the painting, it will feel more like a red wagon because we will not have had this reference. And so that's something that works every time. Now to sum this up, let's go back to the butterfly that's out of color harmony with the flowers. And let's see what that butterfly would look if it were in color harmony with those flowers. We'll just do a little magic work here and throw it into color harmony. And there you go. So you can see a big difference. It's a blue butterfly still. Okay, I might have fudged a bit, but it's a blue butterfly here. We can see now it does feel in color harmony with those flowers. So now that we have explored the basic concept of color harmony, I bet you have lots of questions. And so let's ask those questions now. Now, I hope you have some questions to ask. Meanwhile, one thing that I just think is absolutely amazing is how we humans are equipped with the sensory abilities that we are to receive these messages we receive every day. And not only that, but we have the ability to discern. You know, we have our sensory message, our eye sensories. Our eyes are receivers. They receive messages all the time. Our ears receive messages all the time. And that is, that's just part of it. But then we have this ability to discern when when our eyes and ears receive these messages, we have this ability to discern if it's in harmony or not in harmony. So I just think that's a beautiful thing. Before I get started answering the questions, I want to give a shout out to those of you who are near the midnight hour. You're staying up with us all the way across on the other side of the blue planet. Also, a shout out to the new members that came on. Carla and Christine, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you join us, and we hope that you'll be very, very happy with what you are going to see. Okay, Linda is asking, so what do you use to make the butterfly harmonized? Yes. Well, that's the point of those three methods. If you're using either one of those three methods, you can make a color harmonized. Now, if you're looking at the three methods in terms of blue butterfly in the environment of yellow flowers and green foliage, then perhaps the analogous method is not the one to look at. So when in doubt, you can always use mother color. And that means that in the blue butterfly, you look at the overall light. That's a very warm light. It almost feels like it feels like it's been photoshopped, doesn't it? But it almost feels like it was a kind of an orange light or a yellow-orange light. In that case, with that same blue pigment that was in that original butterfly, you add a little bit of yellow-orange or maybe orange. Sometimes we need to experiment to see just exactly which one it's going to take. A little bit of that into that blue, and it should bring it up to a harmonious hue. Let's see, Cheryl, what do you mean by same light? Are you referring to the temperature? Yes, temperature, but not just temperature, Cheryl, not just temperature. The color of light. That little chart I showed you of light shows that that was showing more or less the color of light. That's the kind of thing we're used to seeing when we go to buy light bulbs and stuff. To say this first, when we're outside, when we're in nature, we have a sort of a narrow range of color of light in, say about anytime from like 9 a.m. until about after the sun rises really, really good, and then before the sun begins to set, we usually have that kind of narrow range. We'll have a kind of a yellow light when the sun is not being obscured by clouds. And then we have a cool bluish, blue-gray sort of light when it's overcast. that's a very narrow range. But late in the afternoon, when the sun begins to set, especially if you have all that wonderful pink we see in the skies of so many of the sunsets, that's the red or pink light. And if you will look at the colors of foliage especially, but look at the hues of things, how they change. They actually change hue in that light. And so that's one issue. You see, we'll see that in the mornings too. And you see it sometimes also, if you know when weather's coming, in our area, sometimes if there's a tornado in the area, the light turns sort of green. And you can watch it change the colors of things. Inside, you might walk into an interior. You might walk into an interior that is, say, using blue light bulbs. I mean, really, really blue. Everything changes. All the colors change. You do not see hues in what we call their local color. And no matter if you have in the theater productions, you see the same thing. A lot of times in theater, they'll use various colors of light to get various effects. And you'll see that when that light is thrown into a different color, it changes the color of everything. Hey, that's that purple bed commercial. They do that thing on the purple bed commercial. If any of you see that, I don't want to give you the impression I watch a whole lot of TV, but anyway. So yes, it's actually not so much the temperature of the light as it is the hue of the light that causes us to perceive the color as we do. All right, I carried on enough about that one. Christine, getting late here, but I love being able to join you. We're loving having you join us too.
We'll watch later.
Going to watch it later. Okay, Laura, thank me. You're welcome. Which method do you prefer or use most and why? I fluctuate between, well, no. Yeah, most, you said most, use most and why. Yeah, I fluctuate between mother color and using the desaturated colors. I use a lot of desaturated colors, but actually those two often go hand in hand. And what I did not say in the video, but it is true, sometimes you might be using all three at once, or sometimes you might be using two at once. But if you separate them out, each one of those methods works individually. But my favorite is mother color. That's the one I will depend upon to always get color harmony. But I have done some things where, some paintings where I wanted to see what would happen if I created a narrow hue range to interpret something I saw in a different color. So say it's a waterfall scene, and I want to show the hue range as being more towards the, well, I showed you one of those, I think, in this. When I want to see the hue range be more in the, yellow to yellow-orange, then I might go for an analogous scheme where I pull what I define as analogous as being all the way from maybe orange to green or blue-green. And sometimes I like doing that because it's so much fun to do it, and it gives you such a rich painting when you do that. Okay, Krista says, no, Bridget, when you pick a mother color, do you need to add the complement of that color to your palette? Not necessarily. The mother color does its thing, and a lot of times it will act as a complement, depending on which color it's mixed into. But if you look at how the colors are arranged around the color wheel, a lot of times a mother color is going to serve two purposes. It's going to harmonize, but it's also going to reduce the intensity. And that's what the complement always does, reduces the intensity. So it doesn't necessarily, no, you would not need to add a complement to your palette. Krista, why would one want to change the color of the butterfly to make it in harmony? There are a lot of disharmony in nature, and should we keep it that way? Well, Krista, if you really look at it, there's not that much disharmony in nature. Now remember, we're looking at what light does, what the color of light does. That's what we're actually showing. And when you have most of nature, if you look at it and you really analyze and you try to do color studies of what you're looking at, I would say 95% of the time, if not more, you're going to have to desaturate a bit because the colors are, the way the light is affecting the overall color, the colors are going, the hues are going to be more or less sort of desaturated. So I don't think you really see that much disharmony. There's a difference between, no, you're calling it disharmony. Yes, forget that difference between. I don't see that much disharmony in nature. Perhaps you could give me a better, an example, or maybe things are different where you live than they are where I live. I don't know. But, so yeah, if, one thing that you do want to watch for, though, in your paintings, especially if you're doing realistic paintings, and you want them to be convincing, if you have too much disharmony, or if you have colors that are out of sync, out of harmony with the other colors around it, it will probably end up distracting more than anything else. So I don't want to make any hard, fast rules about that, because I know there are always exceptions, and artists can get, the master artists can get away with doing a lot of stuff that novice artists dare not try. But so I don't want to make any rules about that, but maybe that's enough said about that. Martha asked, are you saying that blue butterfly would not have appeared that way in real life? Is that it is clear and that it's not natural? Yeah, it would not appear that way in real life. I superimposed that blue butterfly from a different color, from a different photo that had a different source of light, different color of source of light. So I know that one. But no, you can actually make the observation for yourself if you see a butterfly. That butterfly that you see there is enhanced. The light that I was able to find that on Pixabay, it had been played with. It had the blue in it had been intensified and had made it appear it was under a light that was a lot cooler, a lot bluer than I believe it was in nature. So that was an extreme example. Sometimes we show extremes in order to make a point. But if you will observe blue butterflies in nature, blue butterflies in nature, especially when they're in the environment, when they're lighting on flowers that are yellow or orange or colors other than colors that would be harmonious with that blue. And then you do color studies of that, you will find out for yourself that it will not harmonize if it's that particular, if it's to that extreme of blue. Cheryl, sometimes I mix all leftover paint into a beautiful mud. I use that as the mother color for my next painting. Sometimes it doesn't work in harmony. Why would that be? Yeah, that's not a bad idea, because when you mix all the colors in your palette and you get this wonderful pile of mud, that's really not mud at all, but it's neutralized hue. Every neutralized hue has in it every hue. Now think about it. It does. Every neutralized hue has in it every hue. And therefore, because it has every hue in it, a bit of neutral into a color will behave like a mother color. It will neutralize. That's using the desaturated method that I talked about. Why doesn't it work? You probably put too much of it in, or the colors that you were using on your palette were already more neutral, and it might not have worked for that reason. But I don't always know the answer to why something didn't work unless I don't always know the answer if I'm looking at it. But most times if I'm looking at it, I can pretty much 90% of the time know the cause. But if I don't see it, I can't really, I'm guessing if I can't see. Cheryl. Krister, you're right about disharmony, I suppose, because most of nature is probably desaturated. Yes, that's right. And a lot of nature is obviously desaturated, but even the greens in nature, one reason people have trouble with their greens is they don't have the greens desaturated enough. They make them too highly saturated and they feel too green. That's one reason. There are other reasons too. So good observation there, Krister. alka, so less saturation of colors would make them more harmonious. Not necessarily less saturation. Oh, yes. I perceived that one backwards. You're right. You're right. Less saturation of colors makes them more harmonious. If you will look back at that color wheel I have on video 1, if you want to watch this again, or I have that, I call it a 6-degree intensity wheel, I believe is what I call it. It's on the website free. But if you look, if you cover up those highly saturated colors around the outside of that wheel, all the ones on the inside, disregarding the highly saturated ones, they do feel in harmony with each other. So that's the way harmony works. Bridget, if I pick, for example, blue as my mother color, how do you desaturate it without some kind of orange or brown? If you're picking a highly saturated hue, any color, any hue that has its complement in it. Now, if you're highly saturated hue, mother color, any color that has its complement in it is going to some degree desaturate it. So blue, for example, well, it depends on which blue. You know, blues, all hues are fluid. They all have bias. So some blues will be right on the spectrum, like cobalt blue usually is. But you know that ultramarine blue leans a little bit more towards violet, and then phthalo blue, cerulean, Prussian, all those lean a little bit more towards green. So you got that range there. But let's say if we're looking at cobalt blue or something that's on your palette is a cobalt blue, well, then you're going across the wheel and you're probably going to look at cadmium orange as being a good hue, a good complement to neutralize cobalt blue. However, red orange will desaturate a little bit on the you'll have a little bit of that red coming through. It depends on to the degree that you desaturate. Now, when we say desaturate, we don't mean turning it gray. We mean just bringing that hue a little bit more neutral. And we have several degrees of neutrality we can reach before we hit absolute neutral gray. So, or it's just anything that has orange in it. Or you could use, you could go on the other side and see orange, and then you have red orange on one side, you have yellow orange on the other. So as long as it has any of that orange in it, or the feeling of that orange in it, it's going to serve as not only a hue changer, but also it's going to desaturate to some degree. Linda, color harmony means all under the same light source as the sun, moon, light bulb, whatever the source. So they all would be influenced by the light, so must be in harmony in nature, correct? Say it a little bit different to make it a little bit more specific. Yes, but if you say color of light source, same color of light source, then that sort of defines it a little bit more, or defines the whole idea of color harmony itself much more. Now, you know, you could be in a room that has several colors of light in it. Say you might be in a room that has a fluorescent light that has kind of a bluish tone. You may also have some lamps around that have maybe the incandescent, the warmer tones. And it's possible that, well, you could have some green light showing from someplace if you had, well, I'm really pushing it now, but you know, a lot of our electronics these days have got those little lights on them. And sometimes they're red, and sometimes they're green, and sometimes they're blue, and that sort of thing, if that's strong enough, but it won't be. But anyway, the point is thinking of it, getting your head thinking in terms of the color, the hue of the light source, not just the light source itself.
Okay, Ian did a super chat.
Ian did a super chat. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's see. Where was I?
What's your favorite use of color?
Which one is it?
Ian.
Oh, Ian. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, you pay a super chat fee. You give me $5 more to ask me what's your favorite use of color harmony in a famous painting. Oh Lord, oh Lord, what would I say? In a famous painting, Oh, that was tricky because there are so many. I'll tell you one. How famous do you want the painting to be? There is one famous painting. It's a very, very old painting, but done by Raphael. That's really, really old painting, called School of Athens. And of course, there weren't the choices of colors back in those days as we have today. But the color harmony in that painting is impeccable. The School of Athens. It's also a wonderful little, it has a wonderful humorous painting as well. It's done very, very classically, but it has a lot of humor in it. So that's one. Not quite so famous. Richard Schmid, I think you would not call as famous as maybe Raphael or Leonardo, or one of those guys. But Richard Schmid's paintings, I have his book Alla Prima, in which he has many of his paintings printed. So I've seen, and I haven't seen that many of them in person. I've seen a few in person, but he does impeccable color harmony. It was one of his real strong points, and one that he really focused on. We look at people like the Impressionists. There are several of Monet's paintings. The haystacks. Look at the haystacks. There are about 20. How many are there? There are over 20 of the haystacks. I've forgotten now exactly how many. But he's painting those haystacks in different kinds of light, so therefore with different colors of light. But sometimes he's pushing it a little bit. Sometimes he's pushing it. The light, probably the light was maybe not quite that orange, or in some of his Rouen Cathedral paintings, you might just feel that light couldn't have been that blue. But he picks up part of what he will do that few of the Impressionists did in their era, was he'll pick up on the local color, and he'll enhance it by making all the colors leaning a little bit more in that direction. So yeah, there are really a lot. When someone asks me my favorite something, I always get stumped because I can't think of one category of anything where I have an absolute favorite, unless it's not even my kitties. So there you go. Martha, what do you think about color harmony in abstract painting? They should have it. Now we'll see often. It's very important. You got to remember the abstract painting is just like realistic painting, except it doesn't deal in imagery. Or in many cases, depending on how you define abstract, it doesn't deal with images in the same way. It's not trying to depict images. Abstract painting is using the visual elements that we use in realistic painting, but it's using them and as the subject matter. So yes, abstract painting should definitely, in order to be successful abstract painting, he would define successful. But anyway, there should be color harmony there. Now Kandinsky pushed it. He really did push it. And I used Kandinsky as just a portion of Kandinsky in this little video I did at the beginning. But when you look at his painting, it's sort of distorted a bit in the photo, as photos will do often. But when you're there looking at it in the real, it doesn't feel quite so discordant as the photo made it feel. But yes, indeed, abstract painting has just the color, having the color harmony. Hey, let's go back to, what do you think about listening to guitar music that has one string out of 10, or even two strings out of 10? It just doesn't work in your ear. It's not going to last. You're not going to want to listen to it over and over and over again, or any other musical instrument. Have you ever tried to play, if those of you that play piano, have you ever tried to play a piano that's out of tune? Same thing. It's in tune. The painting must be in tune. Okay, preacher, but I can't help it sometimes. Alka, what ratio would you suggest between neutrals and what colors for a painting to work. There is no ratio. There is that the ratio depends upon the subject matter. So you can't really say there's a ratio. Let me say that a different way. Ratio is not a criterion. You just wouldn't use ratio as a criterion there. You go with the what you're using the color to do in your painting, and with keeping the harmony in it, that sort of thing. But don't worry about ratio, not a problem. Cheryl, looking at the color wheel, it seems that if you use any scheme, triad, tetrad, etc., you end up using harmonious colors, either analogous or complement. You're right. You're right. That's one advantage of using those color schemes, is they will give you color harmony. And not only the color schemes themselves, there is a more popular, not popular, but there's a scheme that has emerged lately that is called the gamut. I did a quick, I think maybe I did one of your newsletter tips on the gamut one time, which is forming a shape like a triangle shape or a rectangular shape, and then placing it on the color wheel. It would need to be a wheel that has the saturation scale as well. And then at the points on that shape, whether it's triangle or rectangle, at the points are the colors you'll have on your palette. And then it's just and then you have all the values of those colors, and it's mixtures of those that you limit yourself to create your painting. That will give you color harmony too. So yes, indeed, Cheryl, just a real sharp observation there. Okay, Linda, any insight how Schmid achieved such color harmony? I have his books. Yeah, read his section on color harmony. He tells you. He's got a real thick section in the Alla Prima 2. And he's using mostly, if you'll notice, he's using mostly mother color. But, and there's some cases where he'll use an analogous scheme. Some cases where he'll use a monochromatic scheme, which I didn't talk about, but that's just using a single hue, so it's kind of obvious. So yeah, read that section. Read that section, Linda. Let's see. You got another one to come up?
No.
No. Okay. So kind of have to slow down on there. It really is a fun thing to look, now that you're aware. It will be a fun thing for you. It always is a fun thing for me. When you're aware that the harmony, the color harmony, is a part of the overall success of the painting. It's fun to go look at paintings done by master artists. Be sure it's master artists, because sometimes emerging artists don't quite get there on it. So, I'm not saying just choose a painting from anywhere, but Richard Schmid is a perfect example, but there are others too, where you go through and you actually analyze by doing little color swatches. You analyze the colors that this person has used, and you'll discover in there, you might discover what scheme they use, but you'll discover there pretty much the process they used, and you will discover also that you don't find any color dissonance. Okay, Bridget says, I've been reading lately about color field painting and don't really understand it. Do you have any insights into color field painting? Color field painting, that concept was more, it may be used somewhat in the realistic world, but it was more an abstract concept that was more prevalent during the abstract period, when the abstract period went through a stage of evolving, you might say, from the actual abstraction to then becoming more and more minimalist. And the color field painters, as I understand it, are those that were dealing in large fields of color, and they were working, juxtaposing or doing sort of subtle things with large fields of color. So that's pretty much it. Well, who can I send you to on that? I can't think of anything right now. I can't think of a real source to send you to on there. But if you will look, just Google color field painting, look for artist, color field artist, and you can get some. Helen Frankenthaler is one that comes to mind. So check her work. I don't know. I suppose that you'll find her work on the internet. Okay. Cheryl, out of curiosity, will you be discussing the gamut mapping in the workshop? Look forward to it. Yes. Yes, I will. A little bit of a temptation, although the workshop's closed. That's the workshop we have coming up next week, online workshop. We do one of those every month. And yes, I will. I'm going to add the gamut to these three methods. I'm going to go through the three methods. I'm going to show you how I use them. I'm going to show you examples of my paintings, how they use them, and give you some guidance as to how you can use each method. But I'm also going to show you the gamut there. So look forward to that too, Cheryl. All right. Let's see. We got any more questions coming up? No more questions. Okay. Okay. So going back to other artists, I think maybe since the subject of abstract artists came up, it might not be a bad idea if you check out some of the abstract artists. Go back to those abstract artists from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, maybe during the 60s, 40s, and 50s, 1940s and 50s, like that. The ones that call themselves abstract expressionists. Now, one that's really extreme, abstract expressionist, Jackson Pollock. That's one that usually riles people up. Oh, anybody can do that. Even though Jackson Pollock, you can look at his work and you can see it. You can see it for yourself. Even though his work was dripping painting and dripping paint and slinging paint, it was more of a rhythmic. It was more about the rhythm that he used as he was throwing this paint on his canvas and so on. But when you look at his work, you're going to find the color harmony there. A lot of people don't realize that the early abstractionists, this is not true across the board, but the early abstractionists were trained. A lot of them were trained more classically. They knew these things. The problem with art education today, for the most part, is that it's like anything goes. Well, that just irks me sometimes. Now, I'm not saying all art educators do that, but a lot of the colleges are doing that today. They're allowing anything goes, and they're not training their students to know this stuff, to know how it works, to be able to manipulate it. So, okay, I'm going to get myself in real hot water if I don't shut up. And is there room in your in-person workshop later this year, or are you fully booked? We have 2 spaces, I believe, left in that one, Anne. So if you hop onto it right away, I think that's right. I'm at Roger's house now, so I don't have my list with me. But I think that's right. I think it's not too late to book that. Okay, Linda. Good. I like to see y'all. When you're not asking questions there, I'm thinking, okay, you're thinking about it, right? You're mulling it over in your heads, right? Linda said, to achieve harmony in a painting, it is usually only necessary to recognize the color predominating in the light illuminating your subject and then restrain its complement. Well, I see. You're quoting Richard Schmid. You're quoting Richard Schmid. Yeah, he's talking about there. Yeah, He's talking about there the method of neutralizing. Now he won't use this. He doesn't use the same language that I'm using, but we're talking about the same thing. But what he's talking about there is what I was calling desaturation. Desaturating, a method for when you have a really, really highly saturated color, then you're going to have to desaturate everything else in order to give it the color harmony. Linda, from Schmid, what does he mean constrain? Yeah, sometimes he'll use words like that. We're not quite sure what he means. Let's put it like this. Okay, he says, then restrain its complement. In other words, don't add too much. Don't add too much. Usually only necessary to recognize the color. I remember that sentence, the color predominating in the light illuminating. The color predominating in the light, yeah, illuminating your subject, then restrain its complement. I wouldn't place too much emphasis on that. What he's talking about is not overdoing. So, okay, and no problem. Thanks, Christine. How do you choose a color scheme when you want to create a painting? Would you find a dominant color and go from there? Yeah, I have this little method I use, Christine, Christina, I'm sorry. Christine, I know better. I have a little method that I use, which always works for me. So maybe I'll just go through that with it, and maybe the rest of you could benefit too. And I'll be also teaching or showing this method in the workshop coming up. But so this is a little freebie for the rest of you. I look at the overall thing, and the color that I see most of is the one I begin with. Then, and I'm always pretty specific about how I'm reading that hue. So if I'm seeing more yellow-green, and say I'm thinking in terms of a landscape in nature, because as you know, that's my very, very favorite subject, although I love other things too. But so I'm out in the summer, and I'm looking through the landscape, and I'm seeing lots of green. I'm identifying to myself, am I seeing more yellow-green or more blue-green? That's where I'll start. So most likely in the summertime here in our area, I'm going to be seeing more yellow-green, and I'll start with yellow-green. All right, so then that's one hue that goes on my palette, one color. Then I want its complement. I always want the complement of the major colors that I see. I always want the complement of that color available on the palette, so I have the ability to desaturate. So the complement of yellow-green is red-violet. So then that's the second color I choose. Then I look, what other colors do I see in the landscape? Usually I'm going to see a sky. No, let me back up. I left off a couple of things. I do something else too. I'm looking at those colors now as they would have mixed into each other, and I'm asking myself, what if I want to get it a little warmer? Pardon me. What if I want to get a little warmer, or what if I want to get it a little cooler? So if one of those colors is not already really, really warm, I will add a yellow, and usually it's going to be either Hansa yellow light or cadmium yellow light. I'll just have that available. Cooler, it's always, I usually will depend upon ultramarine blue as a cooler, but any of the darker blues. So, all right, so we've got those two, but let's say ultramarine blue. Then, now I'm looking, I've got available to me my yellow-green, my red-violet, my blue, and my yellow. Do I need anything? Will the combination, this is my next question to myself, will the combination of any of those give me other colors I'm seeing? And I go through the other colors, other colors I'm seeing, and you'll be surprised at how many times I've already got on the palette what I need for showing the other colors. If I don't, then I add that color, whatever it is. Say, red, violet, blah, blah, blah. All right, suppose I'm looking at a creek and I'm seeing red-orange. I'm seeing, the banks around here are often red-orange. And so I'm seeing red-orange. Well, but I have the ability to make a red-orange. If I take that red-violet and add yellow into it, it's going to do that. But if I want to be sure
then I'll add the red orange. And that most likely is going to be something like quinacridone burnt orange, or it's going to be the transparent oxide red by Rembrandt. It's going to be one of those. And then I take that one. Do I have a complement for that? Well, I have a complement palette for this blue. Do I have the ability to warm it? I have a yellow. Do I have the ability to cool it? Well, cooling blue will cool it too. Usually, by the time I have added that second hue, I've got all the colors I'm going to need. And that will be the palette. And I'm assuming by the scheme, you also mean palette. That would be the palette I choose. Now, there are times when I simply decide I'm going to work with a straightforward scheme rather than going through that method of choosing a palette for what I'm seeing. And so I'll just set up that scheme. So, for example, I decide I want to work with a split complementary scene, which is scheme, which is one of my very favorites. That's having two colors that are complement, but you use the colors on either side of it. In that case, rather than red violet, if I were using the yellow green, rather than red violet for a scheme, I would choose I'll go on one side of red violet, put red on the other side of violet. So I'd have violet, red, and yellow green. That would be all the hues I would use, and I would form every other color I need just from that set of hues with white. So usually, sometimes I'll do that because I enjoy working schemes. I enjoy little extras that working a scheme beyond what you actually see can give you. I had a couple of those in that little progression I showed you in video 1, but that's how I do that. I probably carried on a bit by that with that one, but that's okay too. Victoria, hearing your process is really helpful. Wonderful. If it can't be helpful, I shouldn't be saying it. So, yeah, you may try that little thing. And Martha's saying, I find this very helpful too. I am so glad. I think you'll find that it actually makes color more, painting more fun when you, first of all, you set limitations for yourself, and then you see how far you can expand those limitations. But when you set those limitations, you try to set them in such a way it's going to give you color harmony. So I think you'll probably find that will be more freeing than just simply trying to get the colors you see, which is often a mistake because we'll often be looking at it we've often be looking at something and calling it one thing when we're actually seeing something else. But I won't go into that unless somebody asks about it. Okay, Christina, yes, this is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you so much. So much knowledge. It's fun stuff, isn't it? Okay. Well, we're getting down to the line now. I'm getting ready to close this thing out. According to my watch, it's 2 more minutes left. 2 more minutes for questions. Let me remind, I see that we have more viewers than we have members, which is great. So let me remind the members. And also, this will be, Joni can't wait for the workshop. Me too, Joni. This discussion, as all our discussions are, will be on YouTube, available to everybody all over the world, wherever they are, whenever they want to watch it. Once we have finished later on. So let me remind you, because I want everybody to know that to become a member of the Studio Insiders, which is the group asking questions here, to become a member, all you have to do is hit the join button. You see it right every time you watch a video. You see the join button. So you hit that join button. It's $4.99 a month. For that $4.99, you get a free video lesson every month that you are a member. A free video lesson. Go to our website. We have 170 lessons contained in 40 series. So that 170 is available to all of you. You choose the one you want, and that one's free for you that month. I'll give you a coupon code so that you can do that. It also, every second Sunday, Roger sends you an excerpt from one of our lessons. It usually has a little jewel in it, a little something that you can find that's going to enhance your painting process or give you more freedom in your painting process. So welcome everybody. So glad that you joined us today. That was you asked some wonderful questions. Let's see, we've got more questions coming. First time I've checked your live feed. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Lolita, wonderful. Laura, such a great springboard. Good, wonderful. Thank you so much. So, all of you have yourself a wonderful rest of the day or evening, or have a good night. Those of you that are ready to tuck under the covers after this. And again, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope to see you next month at the same time for another rendition of something exciting. So bye-bye for now.